feel like we have to kick off with Iran and the whole dynamic there.
This has been going on for a very long time.
Home mortgages are now under 6% for the first time in a while.
At the end of the day, it's still the affordability is going from rent to a mortgage would go up 3x.
Three times?
Do you see an opportunity in certain pockets of California for manufactured housing?
Why don't you go?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I have a lot to say. Welcome to another episode of the Cash Flow Quest. We're back from a couple weeks off. We were all traveling, and so we've aligned our calendars, and we're having fun again. Lots of news, lots of things to discuss here. We got Morgan Hampel joining as our in-house, naval specialist. But honestly, thanks for your service. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to join for the webinar.
Yeah. The Cash Flow Quest podcast, bro. It's watched by a lot of people, about 100 people every week. I feel like we have to kick off with Iran and the whole dynamic there. We were rolling just a little bit before we jumped in and just kind of back and forth on what the heck's going on. And what's interesting is like how information flows within the Navy, but also like big picture, what's going on. It'd be interesting to kind of lean in a little bit. We're not trying to get political. We're just trying to break it down. And then we're going to tie it back into real estate, interest rates, and where we see like the economy may be headed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But right before we got on, we were kicking around. How does information travel? Like, does the Navy know what's going on? People on the boats, and then we can kind of roll into like the bigger picture of Iran and what they're up to. Are they evil? What's going on?
It's very interesting, and obviously it's too early to tell whether or not this will be a net positive, net negative, both on the administrative side, politically, foreign affairs. People talk about stabilization or destabilization. Well, it was a very destabilized area to begin with, right? So will this make it a net positive in the future? I certainly hope so. Cautiously optimistic that it doesn't expand to a more global, regional war, but we'll see what China, Russia, and some of these other players do. From my perspective, it's funny because both the ships I was on, prior to separating active duty, the USS Spruance and USS Abraham Lincoln for my nuclear tour are both out there in the Gulf right now. Spruance is attached to the Lincoln Strike Group, so they're doing a lot of. I actually saw on social media today that they actually they're starting to launch forward deployed Tomahawks and doing some strike warfare on the destroyer side. They'll also provide some air defense because you saw some reports of Iran launching potential ballistic missiles at the Lincoln. Right, because Lincolns are HVU, we call it our high value unit.
My son has a friend in his class at school, and his dad's deployed on the Lincoln right now.
Oh, really?
Wow.
And so he's a pilot. He's a Air Force pilot, and
Cool.
so he's flying those planes right now off of that carrier.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get up to speed on the depth of like quote unquote evil that Iran is, and or has been. And so it's interesting that the same family dictator has been in power for 35 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, over 40.
Over 40.
Yeah, I think 79 when they came in.
So from your worldly knowledge, also from your background, do you believe them to be as evil as like Trump's saying? Like, is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's because the thing that people can lose sight on, and I'll caveat this with like, I'm not an expert, right? And anybody who just because they serve in the military says that they likely aren't, but we do have, just different experiences that kind of shed some light on some things. But from my experience and what I've seen and what I know, a lot of Iran's evil doesn't come directly from Tehran, but it's through their proxies. Right. And so
they're the biggest financial backer of all the terrorist
Exactly.
groups.
Right. And so I think the reason why this is happening right now is because of what really transpired, quite frankly, over the last 40 years, because it wasn't like an overnight thing. But most recently, ever since, October 7th was really when it started becoming kinetic. Right. And so Iran is known to sponsor and fund Hamas in Gaza, in Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, previous like Syrian regimes with Bashar al-Assad, just to name a few, right? And those are really his foot soldiers to execute and continue to destabilize, the region, right? And so ever since, October 7th, that's when those, tentacles of terror really started to get kind of shut down and cut off one by one, right? And so then as that happened, it really made, the head of the snake being in Tehran actually a viable target, because had we launched this in 2023, 2022, or just prior to these other events transpiring, we wouldn't know what Hezbollah would do. We wouldn't know what Hamas would do, what the Houthis would do. But now one by one, each one of those tentacles sprang up, and then we were able to kind of chop it off ahead of time, where now they were really defenseless in Tehran, right? Which what made, the 12-day war this past summer, and now this, what appears to be very successful from a militaristic side point, still yet to be determined what it has on the global scale. Obviously there's a lot of people are waiting to see what China does, what Russia does, hopefully nothing. And then obviously oil, and energy has a massive ripple effect across the world.
One of the key points I heard from doing my research was the interesting timing of taking Venezuela.
Yeah.
And now, kind of basically Trump came out and said on his feed that we will fully back the Strait of Hormuz. Is that how you say it?
We'll facilitate like flow of traffic.
Yeah. But so like we sort of now control both meaningful flows of oil.
Yeah, which is a massive / majority chunk of China's oil supply.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And so the timing element is like now, okay, you see now what they were thinking is like we got to get control of Venezuela now, and then going into the Iran, the whole scenario, then now you can kind of continue to keep the flow of oil rolling.
But I think like that's where last night, like when I was like doing a lot of research on this, where my biggest concern, obviously you have like the human aspect, but like moving that to the side just for this discussion, like talking about oil and energy, that Strait of Hormuz, it's like, doesn't it get to like a 12-mile basically wide span, and it borders
Iran? Tight, not that tight, but yes.
Like 12, 20 or something pretty tight.
Yeah, so the Strait of Hormuz is, it's a choke point, right? And that's where Iran blockading that has a massive impact on oil trade.
But what about just even these cheap drones that they have? I mean, I think about, like, as I was reading, obviously, like, there's insurance companies that provide insurance on these oil tankers for them, and it's, huge policies for them to get to point A to point B. And I'm hearing a lot of those insurance companies, even if we have destroyers or our Navy there, are probably not going to provide the type of insurance needed, because they could have this $30,000 drone, these cheap drones, and fire 40 of them. They just need one to hit. And then I guess so that concerns me in the terms of just oil, like this oil shock
Trump
supply.
Came out yesterday, somewhere in the last 24, 48 hours, and they're offering insurance.
Oh, federal government?
Yeah, it's the only way you could do it.
He's working
probably
with the department that would offer it.
Yeah.
He named a particular department. But
you have to come up
Kim,
with a solution.
could you just look that up? Just like what did Trump say about offering insurance to the Strait of Hormuz?
Because I was thinking about that. That's the only way that you could provide this certainty.
And the naval coverage. So like if you put destroyers there, and offer insurance to the private companies for their ships, I mean, dude,
it's the only thing you can do.
If somebody's
right?
wild enough to get a shot off, they're gonna get smoked.
Yeah,
I know.
Like it's like he's just gonna staff it full of deterrence on both sides. And then I saw this little like meme or like a little linked video, and it was like it looked like blood flow. It was all the ships going around it. It was insane. It went from like all these boats going around the strait and around that little that squeeze point.
Yeah.
And it just like went to like all these boats stopping on both sides. So like they did short-term bottleneck and slow the flow of traffic. And they went on, there was a full-on like weird terrorist radio chant on repeat that said like, we are stopping the strait.
They do that.
Did you hear that?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like sounded like something from a video game.
Yeah, stuff like that happens pretty. I mean, not like this, obviously, at this scale, but when you're on the open ocean, there's different, just like CB radio if you're a trucker, right? There's that on the water.
Yeah.
And so you're supposed to use it for, safe navigation, but people will hop on it and just say some
stuff.
reckless stuff.
Yeah.
So the U.S. Development Finance Corporation, the DFC, will immediately provide political risk insurance and financial guarantees for maritime trade passing through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, and so that makes a lot of sense, I guess, because 20% of all oil comes through that passage of water, which is pretty wild. And so, I mean, one is like the shock on oil, which if it does happen, I mean, oil is trading higher now, right? I think it's in the 70s. And
it'll they're saying get up to $100 a barrel short term.
And then what that does, I mean, we just were our last podcast talking about energy prices are going down, inflation seems to be under control, and you got a new Fed president coming in. They'll probably, there should be some short-term pressure on at least the short end of interest rates. But if inflation starts to creep because of energy prices, I know we have a new Fed chair coming in, but I mean, you can't realistically cut rates if inflation is ticking higher, because you have the dual mandate and you have to control price stability.
This isn't something I know intimately, but how quickly could you get some of Venezuela production boosted or just our production boosted?
If I recall, most of the oil in Venezuela is heavy crude, and so you need to get that over to Houston area and all these refineries. So I think it takes quite some time, and a lot of that infrastructure is pretty old. I'm no expert.
Our production though, because we have a lot of production capabilities, and a lot of it just went cold because of the pricing.
Yeah, and so I have no idea where that currently stands. I know that they were looking I think too, Exxon, they had all the oil executives up at Washington talking about needing to invest in those. I think there's still, even just to pump the heavy crude, and probably get into a point where you get it on a boat and then get it over to Houston to then kind of refine it and get it into something usable, right? Yeah. For cars, planes, whatever it is. I think it takes obviously some time. There's always a lot of lag. Maybe they timed it correctly to be able to kind of produce and fill that remaining supply. I'm not quite sure, but what worries me a lot is...
So what are you worried about over
there?
A lot.
Yeah. What kept you up last night?
Yeah. I know, unfortunately, I was trying to go to bed early, and then I started reading and going into the rabbit hole.
3 a.m. scrolling.
11 o'clock.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah. Bad news. But yeah, I think a couple of things. One is when he talks about this oil shock and what that could do to inflation and just overall markets, right? I think, one on more of the personal side, what's this going to mean for people's portfolios? Is the stock market going to sell off? Because it's all entangled and correlated to a certain degree. And then the second piece that was keeping me up was just what happens next, in terms of Iran, these proxies.
Yeah, what does Russia and China do?
What does Russia and China do? And then hopefully, we were starting to bring the bombers in yesterday. So today's the 4th, I believe, when we're recording this. We're starting to bring the bombers in and drop bombs with B-2s and large scale bombers. And I hope that we don't see, I remember Baghdad, 2021, and 2022, 3, I think, when we started dropping bombs.
You mean 2003?
2003, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2003, we started dropping bombs on Baghdad. And I hope that doesn't happen in Tehran, because the Persian people are very supportive and they're, good people. And I hope that a lot of the extremists are not probably concentrated in the major cities. They're probably more in the suburbs and outside. And so I hope we just do I hope we're tactical in that.
Supposedly we're hitting all of their
that's what
missile
they're
saying. Manufacturing, all of their, I guess they don't have a naval fleet anymore.
Took out a lot of it, yeah. And we just, I saw it today, we actually took out, one of our submarines had a confirmed kill with a torpedo for the first time since World War II.
They took out their sub.
No, our sub took out one of their ships.
Okay.
With a torpedo.
I heard their sub's down too. They had a sub.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got a hole in it. That's what Cooper said.
You're going to have a bad day. If you're on a submarine with a hole in it.
Yeah, that is a bad
day.
Oh, no.
Pretty unreal. But it sounds like they're being strategic about basically just taking out anything that could be used to come back.
Yeah, because it just goes back to our experience back in Iraq and then where that boiled over into other countries. I just don't want.
That didn't seem clean back then.
And I don't want to create more animosity towards the West in that say like if you're living in these cities and you're like, yeah, they suck, but at least there was some bombs blowing up our our schools or whatever it is. And then that turns them into extremists, or it turns them against the West, because I mean, what happens after all the dust settles? And hopefully that, this is a successful endeavor, but it's like there needs to be some sort of stability, somebody that's going to come behind it and provide some sort of democracy for these people.
Yeah.
That way they can live a fruitful life and we don't have to continue down these endless wars.
And the whole goal is to align whoever comes next. If it's a full regime change or just same regime but more friendly to the West, that's where this either becomes a huge success or a massive failure, right? Because I mean, even like Saudi is one of our closest allies in the region, but like they're on a scale of just lifestyle and the culture. There's a lot that is very not aligned with the West, but politically and foreign affairs that we've aligned with them, right? So if we can even find like a
common thread,
right, where they're more working with us, vice China or Russia, then it could be a huge win for us. And
I listened to a PBD. It's just an appropriate moment for that. He said that Patrick Bet David, he's got a cool news channel. He was born and raised in Iran until he was a young boy, and his parents basically fled with him. And he ended up growing up in LA. And he said that there were literally 2 TV channels just propagandizing the population against the West in America 24/7.
Yeah.
And that's the same guy.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
So I think that the idea is to, displace this kind of crazy head of this country and move it away from just that, normal functionality.
Have you seen photos of what Iran looked like in the 50s and 40s?
Very different.
It looks like America. Obviously the architecture is different, but it's like humming.
Yeah.
It looks like a very, stabilized, it looks like a beautiful country.
Prosperous country.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing that's people tend to forget about is just because Iran didn't propagate a second version of 9/11 to thus thrust us into a war with Iran. I mean, they've been doing this for almost 50 years, since 1979, right? All the things that their proxies have done through Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Syrian rebels. They, remember in 1990, the USS, or it was in the early 90s, I forget which year it is, but the USS Cole, that was Iran, the Iranian hostage crisis. This has been going on for a very long time. So it's not like this just kind of came up out of the blue with,
Totally.
Yeah.
And I actually think Trump remembers those things clearly.
Yeah.
Being New York too, you're kind of in that political mix.
Yeah.
He's had a lifetime of hearing about this.
Yeah.
He's in his later 70s. So
yeah.
And I wonder too, it's, there's always the diplomacy, but we tried the diplomacy. I was listening to some interviews and we definitely, after the 12-day war, we were, sitting at the table with them. We brought, officials out there and there was just no means to any sort of real negotiation, which I think they really forced our hand to be able to have to do this. And then it always goes back, you hear the nuclear capabilities. And, it reminds me of back in Iraq, right? Where it's they have nuclear, and they turned out they didn't, right?
Yeah.
But as you could see just right now, after all this is now happening, they're indiscriminate kind of firing of missiles on all their neighbors, who some of them have been, pretty supportive of Iran. Qatar is pretty wild. They're hitting Qatar, they're hitting Dubai, they're hitting
Dubai had a condo, just drone just comes out of nowhere and smokes a high rise.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I think too, it's all a really good thing for us. In that hopefully we can just pull a lot of support.
Yeah, nobody's coming to rescue them.
Well, and hit it, clean it up, and get the heck out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody
and hopefully
wants it.
help create a more flourishing environment.
Yeah.
But Trump said, I guess somebody just as bad could get in there. So I hope that doesn't happen. A couple of flyer comments like that. He's pretty funny how he delivers the messages.
And it's interesting too. And there's a lot more nuance to it, but it kind of makes you think about, World War II of Nazi Germany and imperialist Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what's come of those now.
Yeah.
Like full-fledged democracies, thriving allies, thriving economies, well and away from what, obviously drew them together back in World War II. So it's like there's a lot of nuances, and it makes this different, but it just shows what's possible, right? When you take out such a destabilizing figure and regime like that, when you let, democracy come in.
What's the name of the regime? I feel like I can't pronounce.
Oh, like the Ayatollah?
Ayatollah.
Ayatollah is what, like the Ali Khamenei is his name, but he is like the Ayatollah. So it's like the king.
Jim Rickards, and what I watch on that side from him, he was saying it was going to happen in the first couple weeks of March, like a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And because he just follows it, and he used to work at the CIA and this and that.
And he probably just saw the ships and everything mobilizing. I mean, we've been out there for...
He tracks it. He's like a news channel guy.
Yeah.
He has his own following for news. And what he was saying is they had talks, negotiations, but then they weren't going great. Basically, like, you're negotiating as these people that want to kill us.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Like 100.
This negotiation isn't going very good. These people are a little crazy. They want us all dead.
Like all of us.
It's like, I think in the West we have a hard time understanding this harshness in how they live. But then they get together with their entire Ayatollah leadership to have a discussion based on these conversations that they're having with the US and maybe some in Israel, it sounds like. And Trump just says, to heck with it. This is going horrible. They're all going to be together. Let's hit them now, and kill them all. So they took out the entire leadership. Yeah. 40 or 50 people that are the head of the snake. Like the head of the snake was literally cut off. Yep. And then it's like, well, who's going to wait and who's going to be the next in line, and who has the huevos to take that on? Because basically you're then just you made the top of the hit list now. Yep. So you'd be shaking in your boots, taking that role on.
What it sounds like too, what they're doing too, even going beyond that, is the police force and a lot of these other trickle down forces, and that they're strategically hitting them as well. Because 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, people saw the protests, and it was really hard to get actual facts out of Iran because it's such a closed kind of country because of what you talked about with the communists and the dictatorship. But they estimated 6,000 to 30,000 civilians died in the streets just getting mowed down by these police forces that were protesting against the Ayatollah and the leadership and looking for kind of a better kind of a
change
life. Yeah, change.
Looking for
solution,
change.
And so, that is, obviously extremely terrible. And no one you didn't really see anyone in the media come out and really talk about that, how terrible that is, right? Almost borderline genocide, just murder of civilians in the street that are just protesting. But I guess the silver lining there is that hopefully the people of Iran, enough critical mass, see this as their opportunity now to take control in their own hands. We'll see.
It definitely seems as though they were truly being evil lately.
Yes.
They're, it seems like it's consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna, we'll see how it goes and how it plays out from here. It seems like it could last at least weeks, so then we'll update, in the next couple of weeks. But this is the main brunt of the discussion. I think we'll move on back into now how this is going to impact the economy.
What do we think?
And interest rates and
treasuries.
And is this going to be throttle off on equities, and people are going to be fearful jumping into treasuries? Sorry, out of equities. Yeah.
Into treasuries.
Into treasuries.
Yeah. Well, if you just look at just what, I can't believe how resilient the equity markets have been. It sold off, so Monday, the strike happened on Saturday, the initial start of the war. Monday, everything was red, and then it closed in the green, which is kind of wild. And then yesterday sold off a little bit, and then today it's up. And if you look at treasury yields, they're still in the low fours, and so it is, volatility has definitely kicked up, but I think people are still trying to assess what this means. Gold is shooting up. Gold is doing much better. The dollar is going up, and so things could switch too with the dollar and treasuries depending on the success rate of just where people kind of view how long this war is going to last.
Treasuries are down. 10-year is down like 20 bips, right? 20 basis points, like from 4.25 to maybe 4.0.
It's been sitting around 4 for the last like week or two. Like it's sitting pretty low at like 4, so it's like 4.6.
So nothing's really moved
4.08.
407 right now.
407, yeah. So 4.07.
Yeah.
I don't know, like risk on war, generally treasuries, like you said, there's safe haven assets. People like go and start buying treasuries, but treasuries just haven't been behaving the way that they normally do. But right now it's like, seems like from a market standpoint, it seems okay. But I don't know. I mean, personally, I would just be a little bit fearful of it, of equity markets and everything.
Like the tip of the iceberg kicking off and then
correct.
A bear market taking hold.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, so one of the main talking points we brought up that's relevant is 6%. So on the treasuries and this home mortgages are now under 6% for the first time in a while. So, or at 6, just under 6,
which makes sense.
So homes and the payment of a given mortgage seems to be stabilizing, but it's still not cheap.
Yeah.
Still not like, or I should say reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, I was here in Texas. Texas has a lot of Texas. Yeah. I think a few markets of Texas, a lot of cancellations in Atlanta. So like people are getting to the 11th hour, going to close. And then it's like, I don't want this $6,000 mortgage or whatever it is.
Yeah.
$3,000 to $5,000 mortgage at current rates.
And they're pulling out.
So there's like 14% of homes falling out of escrow in certain markets across the country.
Yeah.
Some less than others, but go ahead.
Do you think there's a threshold where, because obviously eclipsing 6% for the first time in a long time is a big deal for a lot of people, but like where do you think the demand comes back? Is it 5? Is it staying just below 6 for an extended period of time? Is it 5.5? Is it obviously below 5? I think for sure, but do you think there's somewhere sooner than that?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
Jen and I kind of talked about this. I think between 5 and 5.5, if you can get rates in there, mortgage rates. I think that would spur a ton of demand.
I agree.
For just new mortgages and for loans.
Also refinances.
Well, refinances
that's going to be huge. The refinance
huge.
Market,
Yeah.
You got money flowing.
Yeah.
The people that bought homes in the last few years at
7%.
I think you have a ton of refinances and people potentially pulling money out because to then put back into circulation just because the rate's more favorable.
I think too, like a natural rate as well, just given where asset prices are. So unless like home prices go down
that was what I
tremendously, right? But if asset prices stay where they're at, like the natural rate, I think needs to stay between a 5 and a 5.5 and not have a ton of volatility.
Right.
And then what would that mean for treasuries? I mean, I think even treasuries staying at where they are, if they kind of, I think like even coming down a little bit into the high 3s, I think spreads on mortgages would compress a bit, like to like say 1.5 or 1.6 or 1.7, because the risk of volatility of like a lender rate locking and the expensiveness of that to then all of a sudden transfer from the timeline of like doing that loan, packaging it, selling it off.
Right.
As long as like the rates kind of stay in a certain range bound, I think that like spreads on mortgages would come in to a point where you'd see a healthier single family real estate market. But at the end of the day, it's still the affordability is that's why it goes back to like tide's not here and we kind of have this battle in like housing prices. I just don't see where the affordability is for folks, and to see who can really afford these mortgages at these housing prices.
Yeah.
You run the math. I mean, people can actually try to go get a loan and run the math and like actually go through that process and see it and feel it and see what you qualify for on a debt to income ratio. Like people think about it almost more speculatively.
Yeah.
But like you have to actually go through it and see where the levels are. And then you kind of are like, oh, wow, like you need to make this amount of money with this amount of debt, in order to qualify for this. This is your monthly net. Like it's expensive.
I feel like right now you find a good single family rental. Like if you're in the market, you find a good single family rental to live in and rent, even though it's expensive. But it's like $4,000 for a decent house, maybe $5,000 in San Diego for like a family sized house. Where you can raise kids, 3-4 bedroom house with a decent yard. And because I was just looking for our nanny, and it's like just helping kind of like, oh, look on this website or look on that website, because I used to love to find a deal. And what's interesting is you do the calc on what that home would if your payment on that home, the same home you could rent for like 4, let's say, it's $6,000.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all in insurance, taxes, maintenance.
Insurance is a total bitch nowadays. Like, no matter how you slice
it.
Even
if you just look at that, like say $5,000, just easy math, you're supposed to pay no more than really like 30% of your gross income to
making real money.
Yeah, you're talking $200,000
after taxes too.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they generally try to go gross, but then after tax, like think about how squeezed you are.
You're squeezed is my point.
Yeah, you
need
to
be making
$200K as so both husband and spouse or husband whatever is making $100,000 a piece. Just to afford, if you look at like affordability index, having 30% of your monthly, your gross income go towards your living expense, your housing expense. And then I was just talking to a buddy, I was golfing, and he's renting in Costa Mesa, nice area with him and his soon-to-be wife, and he's got the option now to buy the house. And he's like, I think we're going to buy it, but our monthly payment going from rent to a mortgage would go up 3x.
3 times?
Uh-huh.
Holy moly!
So I was only 30%.
But
that's 3x.
Because think about it too.
I would rent that thing.
Well, yeah, exactly.
No, I don't want to buy it. I'm going to stay here and rent.
Yeah. Okay? Well, you and I love like structured
or get on a
deals.
lease option. Then you can
there
decide
you
later.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a contract in that you'll buy it, fix the price at this price. Maybe like give them some money up front, right? And that's the way you do that. But the reason why is like going back to your point, like the person that owns this property is probably not it's not an institutional owner, right? It's just like a mom and pop. And so I think it's probably a $2 million house. It's just a normal house in Orange County, but that's like how much they go for.
Right.
Which is just wild.
Yeah.
But he probably bought it when it was $500,000. $600,000.
And his
so
low.
He's not worried. And so the rent that he's collecting, he's fine with.
Yeah.
Because the way he looks at it, he's not like doing all the math of like, how much equity do I have in here? I'm only getting a 2 or a 3% cash on cash.
Right.
But if you're going to go buy that, he's probably well aware what the market would pay.
Yeah.
For that house. And so that's why it's not only you're getting cheaper rent, but then also you tack on the mortgage on top of that, and then the insurance and property taxes and everything else. And you're definitely over 2, probably pushing closer to 3 on a lot of these single family rentals.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Generation of renters coming up.
Well, yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get, so then we could lean in towards the affordability crisis. And that's one of like the best arguments that Trump needs to beat. He's got to figure out a way to resolve that.
Right.
The Dems are just screaming affordability crisis. That's like their chant right now. I feel like is one of their big things. And Trump's having a hard time fully shifting that, with like basically treasuries, like bringing rates down fully.
Yeah.
It's not like his challenge. Like it's not like it's his fault.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at him to.
Well, it's interesting too, because like the whole affordability crisis, there's only 2 ways to solve it. It's either you increase real wages very fast or you decrease prices really fast. But the thing is, like, we talk about inflation, and inflation at its peak was like 7.8%, right? And now we're kind of back down in the 2 range, which is good, but it's still inflation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still more expensive than it was last year. So it doesn't feel cheaper at the grocery store. It doesn't feel cheaper at the gas pump. It's just increasing slower. So the only real way to get it affordable again is either a deflationary environment, which comes with a ton of more problems like mass layoffs. The employment or unemployment rate is going to be skyrocketing. Mm-hmm. Things are truly going to get cheaper, but now it's affordable. But now you have an employment crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. And so you have that, or how do we get real wages to come up? And it's, it'll be interesting to see like how, obviously AI is a massive, the internet wave in the early 2000s and now this, it's like, how will this increase productivity to hopefully increase wages to make things affordable again? But the only way, unless we go into a deflationary environment, it's like, how do we get people to make more money?
So I was listening to like the Willy Walker podcast, and he had our guy on there.
Yeah, Peter Litterman.
Peter Litterman. And Willie was like, I talk to home builders all the time, and everyone says that we're 6 million houses short in the United States, but you go talk to home builders right now, and they said there's no way, like, because we're building these houses and no one's buying them. But I think that the problem it's affordability. It's that basically, I know it's like we need to continue to build more houses, but like housing prices have to come down, and I think that this is my theory, right? It's like through this, there's 47 more sellers right now than there are buyers. Yeah. Like, I just think that like prices haven't adjusted. It's kind of like what happened in commercial real estate over the last couple of years too, where like there's no transaction volumes. People wanted these prices, and then they get forced into having to come down, and that bid-ask spread gets closer, and then that's where transactions happen.
Right.
I just don't think it's happened on the single family side, but that it takes a while for that to transpire. Like,
and if you think rates are going to come down,
yes,
in the short term,
you're going to hold.
Exactly.
As a seller, unless you're in a pickle.
Exactly. Right. But the longer that gets dragged out, the longer people have houses sit on the market, they're just going to have to just basically continue to reduce the price until someone is willing to buy that willing to buy that house. So we haven't enough time in my kind of opinion, my thesis, enough time hasn't transpired for housing prices to start to come down. But as we continue to increase the supply of housing, and as those bid-ask spreads start to come more in line, then there'll be more transaction volumes. But you can't sell a house, even if you think, hey, last year that's where it sold, and you had all this buildup from COVID and lower rates. Right. There's a lot of things that happen. Everything has to filter through the system first. And then I think that like housing prices are going to come down, because there's only two ways to do it. It's either interest rates are going to come down, and I think that we're kind of starting to see them where they're getting closer, but they're not going to fall down to 3 or 4, in my opinion.
No,
right?
Where values will hold.
We're talking about the 5 to 6, right? So once they get into there, then just sellers need to become realistic if they want to sell that house and sell it at a price that people can transact based on how much money they make, because real wages are not going to go up that fast.
No, exactly.
And I don't think they could keep up either.
No. And so I just look at it as an imbalance between what people are willing to sell and what people are willing to buy for. And like, I think it's going to come in, and all in all, housing prices need to come down, is my opinion. And they do that through building of more homes. And I still do think like the home builders that are saying like, I don't think that there's a housing shortage, right? Because I'm putting all these houses, I have all these concessions, I'm dropping prices, I'm not getting a lot of demand. But I think that it's just purely off of affordability. The prices are too high, and then that leaks into like, okay, what does it cost them to build? Yeah. So they have other problems structurally, but I
think the Peter Linneman argument though is that when Willie brings that up, or the whole dynamic is you're talking very market specific. The markets that have been able to build have an oversupply short term.
Correct.
Austin.
Yeah. All of Texas.
Yeah,
all of
Texas. Midwest.
You're seeing a lot of you're seeing a lot of those markets
where
soften.
like they just are able to build because local governments are friendlier to development. But then you move to any place that's more blue leaning and more difficult locally to get things built.
Yeah.
Like that's why you're probably going to lose the bet on San Diego.
Correct.
San Diego,
I agree.
You can't build anything.
No.
Like if I see a new home come up, it's like a little grouping of 20.
Yeah.
It's like that's not even going to move the needle. And they sell for like these little popcorn homes sell for like $1 million.
$1 million bucks, and they sell fast.
At today's rates, and then you could buy rates down. You could play with that in this market.
No, and that is,
Texas,
you're right.
Arizona, I've heard, I had a friend that moved over to build a business and went in and built like an office for mortgage banking over in Arizona.
Yeah.
And he said like the area that they were looking in, everyone's like $500,000 to $1 million high. Like it wasn't even close. Like it's like he was buying a $2 million house.
Yeah.
And like all of them are priced 3.
Well, do you think
but they don't trade at 3.
Yeah. Do you think that just more migration needs to then happen to these more affordable
Honestly,
states?
yeah. I mean, like big conversation I've had is like go to Oklahoma, go to all over the South, and like you can find houses at an affordable price.
Yeah.
But you got to take a huge, I'd say, trade-off on
location,
where you live.
Location, lifestyle, potentially.
But there are some great places.
Exactly.
Like our Texas markets that we're in and operating mobile home parks, they're really cool places.
Yeah.
You can get a great house for $300,000 to $500,000.
Yep.
And then on up if you want land and bigger spreads. But like pretty reasonable.
Yeah, because I mean, I think like what you're saying is like if more people then migrated out from these more expensive, highly dense, markets like San Diego, and then they move to say like a Dallas Fort Worth, and they have a job opportunities to be able to support that, then what it would do is slowly start to like bring down housing prices and more expensive because you don't have as many bidders, right? You don't have as much demand for that. And then you're kind of equalizing. There's probably just an imbalance of where people are living or want to live versus where maybe they should live or could live for a much affordable price point.
Well, everyone wants to live on top of each other on the coast.
Yeah.
It's really odd.
Yeah.
I mean, we get it here. We're from San Diego, but like basically we're just like all cramming together in the coastal markets. And if you go, and then the home builders are like, there's no housing shortage out in Texas.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, man, you build 1,000 homes.
Right.
And like a lot of people have to keep moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that the disbursement that kind of triggered kind of goes back to like, we've operated some RV parks. It's the same concept. In COVID, everyone wanted to go everywhere.
Yeah.
Just to get space. And so same thing with single family houses. Boise blew up. Texas blew up. Arizona blew up in certain markets. Like just like went nuts. But now life is back and your family's still on the coastal markets, let's say, if the bulk percentage of people. And so people aren't moving like they were.
Yeah.
And then you really have to want to move now because it's not cheap to buy that starter home.
No.
And moving's expensive.
It's way more reasonable, but like it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Like a payment on a $500,000 house is still not like nothing.
All right, I got to ask you something then, Blake and Jen, because it just goes in the same vein now, mobile home parks. Okay, given what we just talked about, all of that, do you see an opportunity in certain pockets of California for manufactured housing where, obviously there's a huge regulatory risk. Obviously, we know that. But just given everything we just talked about, there are a lot of parks and like even just like in San Diego. Because I know it's something we kick around, but I'd love to just get your take for the podcast.
Why don't you go?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I have a lot to say, but I just drove one the other day. That's for sale.
Yeah?
On Monday.
Oh, cool. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on it. I get my brain gets caught up on the regulatory like aspects of that. I would love to, like, in a perfect world, I think it would be really cool to own some near us that we could be like more hands-on and run the whole kind of like events and really, creating that affordability community, like put my spin on it and like watch it happen real time in our backyard per se. I think from a personal like opinion, that would be really cool to like have closer. But I think a lot would have to happen and change for us to really get serious about potentially buying in California. Maybe NorCal. I mean, it's different up there. You have more land, more things are spread out. I don't know.
But would the opportunity be more in the dense areas than more the spread out?
Yeah, and it's needed probably more in the dense areas. Yeah. So that's why it's...
I know it's a tricky one. I didn't even throw you guys on the spot, but it's kind of fun.
So I just drove one on Monday.
Yeah.
And I like wanted to kind of feel it again, and be there, drive through it, see what's going on, see how many homes are for sale. And there is an ungodly amount of demand. It's it's like literally they're going to just be stuffed full of like 100% occupancy. The only way you end up with a house is if somebody dies. Like it's got so much demand.
And how old was the inventory in that?
Pretty old.
Okay.
Probably 80s. And then this particular one ended up being in a flood zone. And so it's like you layer on risk, right? So like the realm of possibilities is just like, it's just such a small target for what you would want here. So then I would take it back to, I'd frame it like this. If you hit the lottery and you wanted a great cash flow stream that is going to be limited in upside and growth,
but durable,
but very durable, like just like the money consistency of cash flow, low overhead because you could like manage it with like a storage kiosk. Like you wouldn't even need a human there, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you could really minimize cost on the operational front because there's just so much demand. It kind of all happens. Like realtors sell homes. This community had homes for sale, 2 of them, but they were just for sale by the residents. They were like $250,000.
Yeah, which is wild.
Space rent's $1,600.
And it was a 1980s home,
Should
probably?
be $2,000. Yeah, well, actually, this was a nicer double wide.
Okay.
It looked like it had been brought in the last 10 years. So no rent control, because then there's 130 or 40, maybe more, different rent controls in California.
Certain
it's
counties?
It's all the cities.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's just the ones with rent control.
Right. Right.
And so then you have all these that don't have it. And then it's like if they're in the counties, then you can get like a lot of like open areas where they don't have rent control. But you still go back to it. You still have to pay a freaking pretty penny for them.
Yes.
They trade in like the 5 cap range.
Yeah.
Debt today, like what are you going to be able to clip? If you sneeze and raise rents above like 7%, you're probably going to get sued.
Yeah.
Like it's just like so to drive value. So like it's actually like
I like the perspective.
The segment of Linneman. Go ahead.
I guess question does does California rent control impact ground lease the same way it does apartment rents? Or are there different metrics?
It's different, but I do think if you go above 10%,
it's still the CPI plus.
There's some parameters
5+
there,
CPI.
but it's not 1-to-1. It's a little different.
Yeah,
I'd have to look up to be exactly sharp on that. But I think if you didn't, and typically like a 8-10% bump is a meaningful dollar amount because you're going like let's say this deal I was driving, it's $1,600. It's $160 a year for 10%. Yeah. That's a big bump year over year.
Yeah.
So you probably wouldn't push it. But if you do, what we've bumped into it elsewhere, if you're seeing half rents and then you just go in and do $300-$400 just to try to true up, like you're gonna have legal problems.
Yeah. Well, and then it'd be kind of the same calculation that we do. What would a mortgage on a $250,000 to $300,000 home in that park
both
with the space rent, right? Where together, what would that be? And then where is it under the apartment rents and it's the same calculation.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think that's a good one where it's like if you won the lottery and you were going to go buy something, to assess it that way and kind of look at it like, okay, what would my cash on cash and what level of risk am I taking if I buy a community in California, say even here in El Cajon where we are, versus in Phoenix? What would the growth do and how would it be different on a cash on cash kind of return perspective? I like that way of like looking at it and approaching it.
In the end, like it'd be a great ballast play.
It would.
Like it's a keep your wealth versus like generate wealth.
And you would never have an occupancy issue. Like you would have people trying to buy these homes as fast as they would come up. And
hell, you could I actually know people have done this as a backup plan for the rent control element. You could condo map them.
Yep.
So that
and
is an
sell the
exit
lots
strategy.
off at like $200,000-$300,000.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's something I've never crunched the numbers, but I've always been very curious on built to rent developers, how it would pencil if you ran it as a mobile home park investment style, where you build to sell the homes, but you keep it on a ground lease. So, because I remember when I first moved to San Diego, I was like looking at homes and I was like scouring like Mission Beach, Pacific Beach area, and I saw a house. It was like $400,000. Oh my God, I'm gonna write an offer today. Yeah. And I was like, there's got to be something here. It's like on the boardwalk and it's on a ground lease. Right, so I'd be very curious to see how that would pencil. Obviously, the depreciation isn't nearly as good on the BTR side as it is with us. But like those guys, it could be. I'd wonder with space rent on a single family home plus, a 40% discount on your comparable house sale because you have a ground lease. Like how that pencils to a true full mortgage of what's probably a $1.5 million home you can maybe buy for $700,000 plus a little space rent.
Yeah, and then you own the home. Then you can make it your own.
Exactly, right? As an ownership, it kind of brings some affordability back, but...
And you have a little bit of a payment, kind of like similar to what we have in the mobile home park space, but at least you own the home, and it's at a lower price point for the actual structure. Yeah.
And then too, you see it especially in San Diego, because you just brought up a good point. Like there's no inventory, and you're forced to then buy someone's existing house because there's no vacant pads. Per se, so your equity in your home actually increases because there's so much demand to then live in that
Location,
community,
yeah.
right?
The value
It'll,
goes up. Yeah.
And so that's what people always kind of miss in our space is that it's like, well, like they buy this depreciating asset and they have no value there. It's like, that is true if the park continues to go down.
Right.
But if you increase the value of that park, it's
And
in a
bring
good
demand.
location.
Yeah.
Those homes actually do appreciate. They might not appreciate the same way as a fee simple piece of property where you actually own the land underneath wherever that house is.
Right.
But they do go up.
Yeah.
And San Diego is a prime example because that double wide you just mentioned for $250,000, that double wide is not $250,000 from the manufacturer plus
No.
all the set costs.
No.
No.
You know,
No.
it's cheaper, but you have to be forced to buy someone's used home because it's on that lot.
And you
Yeah.
know that house that's sold for $250,000 needs some work on it.
Yeah,
It's
of
not
course.
perfect.
Yeah.
It's 20 years old, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah.
Like that's why I always like joke with people. I'm like, you know, if you buy a manufactured home, try to find a vacant pad somewhere in San Diego. Buy your own house, get it exactly how you want. And
Have a dealer put it in.
Have a dealer put it in.
Yeah.
I've had people like, okay, that's a good idea, and they go look like there's no vacant pads.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, crap, now you're gonna be forced to buy someone else's home.
Exactly.
You know? But it's the same thing and stick builds.
Yes.
You know, that's why you're spending $1 million+ bucks in San Diego to buy some old piece of
Fixer-upper.
crap house or fixer-upper. Yeah, like and it's like
I still think the play here, like if you're having fun and you want to be an investor here, go buy like a half an acre, 2 acres, and just stacked single wides all over that frickin' property.
do you think
The ADU thing now, like there's one out in El Cajon, they
Yeah.
put like 4 of them in
either
their
you
yard.
ground lease it or you condo map
Just
it?
rent it.
Yeah, just rent it.
I mean, build like you order homes that are a little bit more bomb proof,
Yeah.
and then you have a 4 or 5 unit, boom.
And then you just put up, and say you do that too, like if you did it like in San Diego, and if you gave them yards and everything, try not to like don't look at from your Excel spreadsheet, like, I could put in so many homes here and get all this amount of rent. Like think about it actually who's going to live there, and you give them some space and like build a
Yeah.
The
little
rents,
yard.
you will crush on rents.
You'll crush. Yeah.
Because like it's like the pros operating multi out here, it's crazy expensive too.
Well, that's the same thing in multi right now with the whole ADU thing because you brought it up. Everyone's building all these tiny like 1-bedroom studios, and I'm like,
And no
dude,
parking.
Yeah,
People
no,
are getting caught carrying the bag here soon for those.
yeah, it's like
because
it's like,
they
what
don't.
are you doing?
They're like, you can't raise a family in there. It's a 1 to 2 person max house.
and your turnover,
it's so high.
It's very funny because California can't really get out of its own way because there's this huge housing shortage. It's like, okay, well we need units. Well, okay, well what's the definition of a unit?
Right.
Well, anything, right? It could be a tent, it could be a studio, it could be a 1 bed. But like the thing is, so the density bonuses are only incentivizing studios and 1 beds. So I was like, well, we don't have a student housing problem, we have a family housing problem.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like all these infill projects, like they make sense today. But I don't know if they will in 3 years when all that supply comes online and school starts up again and you're out of students who want to live in a 400 square foot studio.
Yeah.
So would the density bonus actually incentivizes smaller units?
Well,
or is that just the way it's interpreted?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because in order to get these to pencil, you need to get as many units as possible. Right. So
and you only can do so much square footage.
Exactly. Right. And so inherently people tend to build studios and 1 beds because that's how you can maximize the units to get the highest price per square foot on a rent base to actually justify how expensive it is to develop in California. But so we're going to have a ton of these studios, 1 beds and, small 2-1s come online, and eventually they're going to comb through the system and there's not going to be renters for them because families need 3 2s and larger.
Yep, exactly. That's why going back to your strategy. I mean, I think like when I see buddies or people in the industry, they're like, "Oh, I'm building. Here, can I see your unit mix? Like, what are you building?" And they're building like some 3s and a lot of 2 bedrooms and just a couple of 1 bedrooms. Like, oh, that's a good unit mix. Like, you're not going to have a ton of turnover. And I'm sure that if they were to engineer that a bit and they said, no, let's go more 1 bedroom, some studios and just 2 bedrooms, the pro forma, your rents per square foot are going to look better. But it's like, as a long-term holder, as like a real investor, it's like, no, I want something. What I want to hold. No, I want something and you're going to always get top of market rent for the 3 bedrooms, the 3 2s.
Yeah.
Because that's the family.
Yes.
And that's the sticky tenant.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks like moving kids in schools and everything like that.
Yeah.
But some bachelor or like a single person, it's like,
They can move.
whatever. You know, it's like they're jumping around every year.
Yeah.
And that's where you have a lot of turnover, R&M, you know, concessions. And I agree. And so, that missing middle, I think is what they call it.
Yeah,
It's like that's the
biggest issue.
That's the target. It's like the larger type units.
Yeah, all of those buildings that have come on in San Diego are pretty vanilla. You know, like, and then I have a friend that built some like really cool, you know, modern, you know, CMU like block construction, really cool stuff. He's getting rents, but it seems like there's going to be a lot of turnover. Yeah. And they're smaller units.
Yeah.
And he did the density and all that.
Which then your management and your repairs and maintenance cost and everything.
Yeah. I mean, he built literally a brick shit house. So it's like
pretty durable.
Unbelievably durable.
Okay, well, that's good.
So like that's the good side of it. And it's really cool aesthetically, but it's like really small. Yeah, it'd be hard to live in it long term. So like it's not going to be as sticky. So then his management style is going to have to be more leasing focused.
Yeah.
And that costs money. And
it costs money.
It's just
that's the reason why, especially like in the mobile home space where we operate, such low turnover. So management cost, it's a fraction of what you're dealing with on the multifamily side. So it's just
and
when you stand the test of time.
Yep. And when you don't own the units, then it reduces even further.
Yeah.
So
they don't care if they beat them up.
Right. And usually when they own it, they don't want to beat it up, so there's incentive there.
Yeah.
So
and before we move on, then we can kind of wrap up.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing from the whole scope of building single family homes to building mobile home parks today. I have a few friends that are doing it on scale. I think that mobile home parks in the 70s and 80s just had the benefit of like cheaper labor, cheaper cost on the hard cost side. And then the homes, and now there's age involved in the maturity of those, the housing stock. Now the cities have grown around and I just keep coming back to like, you can't replace this. Even if you really try. Yeah. And people are trying like crazy in Texas and doing it. But you end up with a $100,000 to $200,000 sale price product at space rents above $1,000. It's like, it's not the affordable product that these urban mobile home parks are.
Yeah.
That are already there.
Yeah.
Now you got to replace a home here and there, but that keeps it like on a reasonable turnover, reasonable, replacement cost level.
Yeah.
And then you can sell the homes and get out of them. There's not too much friction there.
No. Yeah.
Whereas when you're booting up and selling the whole park, it like no matter what you do, it takes 10 years. And then it's still not, it's like double the cost of our properties.
And I think too, just the natural like attrition of like homes turning over, like those 80s, 70s like homes, like that's good. You slowly over time bring the park up to a quality where it goes into more where you're talking about in like Southern California, where it's like the maintenance is super low. It's like people are living in like night, you have just a higher quality of living. Your neighbor has a nice house because everyone gets excited like, oh my goodness, they finally painted that house, or those people sold, and now a flipper even comes in. But it's like when you pull up now, it's like, all the weeds are gone. A family's living there. This is great.
Yeah.
And so that's where we get that return and get paid for, is like all that hard work it takes in the first like 3 years, and then really like 5 to get these parks that have been kind of run down and mismanaged for so many years, decades, and then get them to a higher standard, and then just carrying that forward over 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Sometimes we hold parks beyond that, but it takes time, and like to Blake's point, you cannot replace it. You cannot replace.
You really can't.
Yeah. And the locations are just fantastic. I mean, you're right in the city. These aren't off the beaten path. It's like you're right in the city. You're close to the job centers. You're close to the retail. That's what I love about it so much. It's like,
I'm talking about downside protection, like compared to multifamily, where you're on you have a
2 acres.
30,000 foot lot, maybe an acre, maybe a little bit more. Well, we got 20 acres, 30 acres. I mean, the land value is critical. So that's really your downside.
Square block.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
A couple.
Yeah, exactly.
No, 100%. And now it's like in the urban environments.
Yeah.
To where it's
right in the heat of it.
It's really interesting, but I think we're going to continue forward.
That's why we love mobile home parks.
Anyways, we wandered and had some fun today. But thank you for joining us for another episode of the Cash Flow Quest, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers. Guys.